Hi everyone, this is Jim. Welcome to this postmortem of my Blitz game number 623. My opponent started with e4 and I decided to go for the French defense with e6. And now I played the very rare move a3. You see there's only one instance of it in the game, and after this we're basically out of the opening book, so we can just look at it on the notation page here. The chess engine was not impressed with this opening innovation, thinks that black is at least equal and maybe a little better. So it's almost like it's a wasted move. Let's see, he plays d4 here, and it's like I have the move here instead of white. His only advantage from the opening that he managed to achieve is he managed to get in this move a3. But he gave a tempo to me somehow. So I'm leading in development now, actually, with getting the knight out first. He pins the knight. I go bishop e7 to unpin. Develops the knight. So we get some pretty logical play, and it stays in the range of about even to slightly better for black. I just go for the quick castling and getting a rook to the e file while his king is still out there. Often a good idea. h3, this will stop my knight from hopping in here, or my bishop from coming to pin his knight, if he's worried about that. Put my rook on the e file. Goes bishop to e2 to block any checks and prepare to castle. And now I go h6 to kick his bishop back. Goes and drops it back to e3. It's interesting. I was expecting him to try and keep the pin, which they often do, go back to h4 here, and then maybe to g3 later and look out on this diagonal. Here it seems a bit passively placed, but he has maybe ideas along this diagonal. I eventually decided just to play c6 to shore things up and bring my pieces over to the king side. This is kind of setting up for a king side attack. Secure the queen side and then move your pieces over to the king side. He goes knight to c3 here. I start bringing my knight over. And now he goes queen d2. And this causes me to question my plan. My original plan was to go knight to f8 to g6. And I just wasn't so sure that was such a great idea anymore. I think I still could have gone with that, though. I think that still would have worked. But I decided I wanted to defend that pawn, not give up two pawns for the bishop, and allow him some attacking chances over here. So I went bishop f8. So the chess engine is not at all worried about this sacrifice here, and probably that's correct. So I looked at it to see, well, the chess engine's recommended move here is actually putting the bishop on d6. Now that there's no longer a pin on the knight, the bishop's not doing a whole lot on e7, so putting it out on an active square. And then if white goes for the attack here, there's two defenses here. I can defend either with bishop back to f8 or knight back to f8. I think knight to f8 was even slightly better. It gives two defenders of the h7 square, so the move knight to g5 just doesn't really accomplish anything. Even if he manages to trade off one of those knights, the other knight is still guarding h7. So the chess engine wants to play knight to e5, and maybe with the idea of opening up a line for the bishop and concentrating on the f7 square, which looks a bit weak in this position. But then that knight can just be taken off, and then take back with the rook so that I keep my knights over here, and then castling queenside. And white can continue to try to attack in this position, but it looks like he's not getting anywhere. The fact that I have two knights covering the h7 square, and even if he manages to line his bishop up here, one of those knights is going to be free to move to come out to maybe to g5, or maybe the other knight could come out to e4 and block that diagonal. So it looks like the attack is just not going to work out, and so I shouldn't have bothered to defend. Let's see, but this is still a good position for black because white's moves haven't made a whole lot of, he hasn't made a lot of progress in activating his pieces. They're kind of in a cluster around his king. Anyway, but he has a plan here. He castles queenside, so obviously he is going for that king side attack and with pawn storm. And let's see, I played knight e4 here. The chess engine thinks I should immediately start attacking on the king side and that I still have quite an advantage. So it gives the edge to black up to this point. And if I had continued with b5, say moves his king to b1 and a5, and my attack, my pawn storm over here is quicker than his pawn storm. So that's the best way to play this. After knight e4, which is, it's a kind of a logical move in a lot of cases, but in this case it's a little bit slow. It doesn't really accomplish anything lasting because he can trade it off. And, I have eliminated one defender around his king, but he can gain some tempo moves. He's got some tempos against my rook, and then he gets to launch his pawn storm first. Let's see, I bring my knight over here to f6 to defend, but now this knight is always a bit of a problem piece because he can always play this move g5 with tempo. But I have this knight to e4 idea once again. And but he extinguishes this, or puts a damper on it with knight e5. So this was a good move. I can't easily chase this knight away with my bishop back here. And also it stops me from playing knight e4 immediately because, well, it doesn't stop me. But when I play there, he can just exchange it, and I have to take back with a pawn, which is might become weak in the long run. So I play bishop d6 to put pressure on his knight, but the chess engine wants me to undermine the knight with the move c5, and that's an interesting move. Notice that the rook is already attacking the knight, so when I play c5, he can't take it. I'll just grab the knight in that case. So that helps me to undermine his center. So c5 is a good move here. I played bishop d6, and now he goes f4. And I think white's better in this position, although the chess engine likes, even more than f4, it likes the move g5, just pushing ahead with this annoying move. After g5, I probably don't want to take and open up more lines on the king side, so knight to e4 to try and shut down one of these diagonals. Bishop takes, pawn takes, then he takes on h6, and I take on e5, and we get a position where lots of material comes off. I trade queens. Basically, black is trading down to where it's is safe from the attack. Rook takes d2, and then g6. And this is still slightly better for white, but we have opposite colored bishops. White has an extra pawn, so that's why the chess engine likes white here. But well, these pawns are a bit weak. I can attack both of them. This one's already under fire, although he can defend it with the bishop, but the bishop needs to defend both of those pawns, and then that'll keep his bishop tied up, and maybe my bishop can get active. So this is not at all a a winning position for white. It seems that the engine thinks white has a slight edge, but it looks pretty drawish to me, actually. Anyway, we didn't go with that line. He went with f4, which keeps more material on the board and keeps an advantage to white, so not a bad choice. I'd hop in here with knight e4. I needed to get out of the way of these pawns. I didn't want these pawns coming forward with tempo and forcing open some lines here. But it does create this weak pawn on e4 that I have to worry about. Let's see, he played rook d to e1, indirectly looking at my pawn. The engine thinks, white's best play is to push ahead with f5, although we end up in a line similar to what we saw previously, where after f5 I'll trade the knight, take the knight and trade queens, and we get into this opposite colored bishop scenario. So it's not clear if that's really a winning try. He goes rook d e1, and I go f6 to chase the knight away. He pops the knight into g6, and then I push on with f5. So I just wanted to try and trade off some of these pawns with using my f-pawn here to force some exchanges without, I was trying to avoid damage to these two pawns in front of my king, so I'm pushing the f-pawn forward to try and trade off. And also I'm defending the advanced e-pawn if he doesn't take. So he went ahead and took, which I think is okay. I take back with the bishop, putting a little pressure on the knight. That was another idea here. He brings his rook to g1 now. He's got this pretty well organized. His rook's lined up against my king. He just needs to liberate his queen and his bishop along this diagonal, and he would have a killer attack. So it's key to keep this pawn blockaded here, and that's the other thing this bishop, the bishop on f5 is doing, is blockading that pawn. Let's see. He played. I played rook e6 to put a little more pressure on the knight, and I think I am threatening to take it. If he does nothing, I'll probably take with the rook. He takes, I take with the bishop. He can push this pawn forward, but at that point, maybe I've reduced the material enough that I can hold on here. It takes him a while to bring his other rook to the g file. Anyway, he didn't do that. He played knight h4, and then that's losing. The chess engine thinks white's still better here with knight to e5. So knight comes to e5. I can try and undermine with c5. Let's see, rook h2, trying to double the rooks here, allowing me to take. Bishop takes, and then trading off the knight, and pawn takes. So keeping this way, white keeps the queen on. So it's still opposite colored bishops, but with the queen and the rooks and the opposite colored bishops, this would be good if he can get an attack going on the dark square. So this would be best play for white. But the engine rates this as a balanced position, maybe slightly better for white, but not, again, not necessarily winning. So it seems like I never really lost. I was never in a losing position in this game, although I was slightly worse at various points. But anyway, back to the game. He played knight h4, and that just gives up the piece. So I took it. My queen is guarding that square. And then let's go forward here. I mean, I didn't do anything wrong. He tried a few things here, and I just kept my extra piece, basically. So there's not a whole lot going on. This was a mistake when he tried to counterattack my queen. You know, I'm attacking his queen with a pawn. He attacks my queen with the bishop. So I can just, it took me a second to figure this out during the game, but I can just take the queen, and that actually wins a piece for me. So now I'm 2 pieces up, and he doesn't even get some pawns for it. So this pretty straightforward win. And I invade with my rooks, and if we just run this forward a little bit, yeah, starting at this point, there's a forced mate. I think the engine sees a mate in 6. Not necessarily the way I played it, but you can imagine there's going to be a forced mate here, the way his king is nearly trapped. So the way I played was not bad. I just wanted to go forward a few moves. These are all pretty forced. And this point, yeah, so it's white's turn to move. So black's turn to move, I mean. There's a mate in 2 here if you want to spot the mate in 2. Okay, I want to give the answer away now. The mate in 2 is rook here. So you just move the rook out of the way, creating a discovered check. The rook is guarding all of these squares, and the king can come forward. That's its only move. And then the bishop comes to this diagonal, and that's mate. And notice that the rook had to come all the way to b4, so taking that pawn wasn't just a show-off move. It was really clearing the diagonals for the bishops, and a very nice mate with rook and bishops. It's always good to see these mating patterns. You never know when they're going to turn up during your games, or whether you can use that as an idea. And then there's one more place. Let's see, I didn't go for that mate. I didn't spot it. And of course I have a easily winning position here with just normal moves. I play bishop to h3 here to chase his rook away. Let's see, he went to h1. I went ahead and queened. He took. I took. And now there's a couple ways I can mate here, independent of what white does. Actually, there's 3 mates that I can think of right here. So if you want to see how many mates that black has from this position, this is a good exercise as well. Okay, I'm going to give the answer away. So first of all, the mate I showed before is still on. Rook takes b4, followed by bishop to, in this case, this square, bishop to f5, would deliver the mate with the rook and 2 bishops. So that's one. A second mate is simply to, and that's a mate in 2. Another mate is simply to march this pawn forward. That would be a mate in 3, because his king has no moves, and he has 3 moves he can make with his pawns. But 1, 2, actually 1, 2, 3. he could generate a check there and cause some trouble. So maybe I have to be a little bit careful. Yeah, just marching that pawn forward. But it seems like marching that pawn forward, should be another mate. So the third mate, though, is another rook and bishop idea, which I thought was kind of cute. So, for example, if white were to move the A pawn forward, then this rook takes b4 mate doesn't work. Rook to b4 check, king comes forward, bishop here check. King has another escape square, so it no longer works. So after the move a4, there is still a mate in 2, but it's a different one. And if you want to take a second to see if you can spot it. Okay, the idea is to use the other way that the rook can move. So you play bishop here first, and then the king still can't move, so white makes some pawn move, and then you just move this rook out of the way, going along this rank, and the king has no escape here, and the bishops cover the escape square. So that was the point of bishop d3, covering the escape square on on b8 there. So anyway, nice or b1. So anyway, that's the mating pattern. Some nice mating patterns with rook and bishop. So that's it for this video. See you guys later. Bye.